All right, welcome to the cold January edition of our Disability Ministry Video Roundtable. And today we're going to talk about the work-life balance in disability ministry. And this is a discussion, but we did bring a special guest today. So Barb Stanley from Wonderful Works. And so Barb, if you want to just kind of kick this off and tell us a little bit about your background and why you're very passionate about this particular subject.
Yes. Okay. So my background is I worked for years in my church as the assistant to the lead pastor, which is a church administration, ministry mobilization position. Basically, if you work in a church, one of those people that wears different hats, and that life can get crazy. As you know, in ministry, it's just that work-life balance is different than in any other field. So I did that for years. Then I took 2 years off and went to grad school to get my master's degree in social work. And when I was there, I interned at a Christian counseling agency where I learned firsthand about compassion fatigue and what that is like for everyone in the helping field, which also includes us in ministry. And while I was there, my capstone project was to develop an intervention to help people in the helping field protect against compassion fatigue. Which we'll talk about here in a few minutes. But part of protecting yourself against compassion fatigue is about understanding your work-life balance. And so this, what we're going to talk about today, is part of what I presented at our internship to the staff there. And it's a really, really, really fun discussion. I'm super excited to hear from all of you. So if you want to, I went ahead and put a link to our website. We have some resources for compassion fatigue and work-life balance. And I'm going to kind of be going through a little bit of the talking points on our work-life balance tip sheet. And then you will see we have these awesome, this was not my idea, but it's so good, I copied it. You'll see these awesome little sheets we're going to do that's like my can't wait to do list and my what not to do list. Because what we have found is that the key to work-life balance isn't about managing your time, it's about managing your energy. Okay, so you guys want to take a look. We're going to really kind of talk about what is it, how do you know when your work-life balance is off? Does anyone have anything that they can tell they've kind of gotten out of whack?
I'll jump in since I'm unmuted, but if I, like analysis paralysis, where I literally just can't figure out what to do next. Mm-hmm. So I do nothing.
Yeah. Is that when you feel like you've gotten so tired that you're just not?
Yeah.
Yeah. I do that too. Yeah. What about anyone else? What are some of the signs you feel like things are kind of getting not where they need to be?
I cry at the drop of a hat.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we've all been there. Yeah. Anyone else?
I would say arguing with your spouse for no reason.
Mm-hmm. And when you find yourself in these places, have you ever thought about what you have going on, like in your work life? Is it oftentimes when you have a lot of things that are draining your energy? Like, are there certain things like what you do at work that are harder for you because they don't maybe match your natural energy boosters?
Why are these?
Yeah. Anyone want to share about that?
Yes, technology.
Yeah, oh, you and I speak the same language. I'm trying to learn that as I go too. One thing that we have found is that people generally either are task oriented or they're relationship oriented. And a lot of times when I feel like your energy gets out of balance is when you're doing too many of the things that are not in your lane. So one of the things that can help with raising your energy is finding out which type of person are you, and then adding in things into your work week that actually raise your energy. This is like, I think, kind of an aha moment, because I feel like so many times when we talk about work-life balance and energy levels, we think about what can we subtract, but that's really only half of the conversation. Is there anyone in this group that is task oriented? Okay, yes, Julie. So do you have a checklist? Oh, I can't hear you.
Because I'm muted. Okay, unmuted. Yes, so I have a task list, and the people that are working in my ministry with me are this one next to me and our daughter.
Yeah.
And the poor people, you know, every day we have a 10 o'clock meeting, and I'm all about the list. I'm all, but what did you get done yesterday? What did you get done the day before? You know, what do you have to do today? And they're all kind of they're both looking at me like, good heavens, woman.
Yeah. Yeah. How do you feel when you get to check something off your list?
Amazing.
Yeah.
Your energy goes up, right?
It does. Yes.
So here's something I discovered when I was working at our church. I actually started in one position and then kind of worked my way up. So I actually started as the church secretary, like a couple hours a week. As I was promoted up, my job became less task oriented and more relational. But I'm like you, Julie, and I'm task oriented, and I'm actually one of those people that I not only make a checklist, but if I finish something I didn't have on the checklist, I will add it to the checklist just so I can cross it off. And when I first made this big shift to like more of my day was relational, I found my energy level tanking. And I couldn't really understand why, because I think a lot of us that are task oriented feel bad about it. Like we feel like I should be more of a people person, right? But that's really a myth. You're made the way you're made on purpose, and just enjoy it. So what I found helped for me was I actually added in tasks that I could accomplish that day. Like instead of asking someone to staple all of my like handouts together, I put that into my day and my energy level actually went up. So I would be curious to know, has anyone found that for themselves, things that they've added into their life to bring their energy up?
Yeah, I have to check things off boxes.
Yeah.
Like I literally, in any aspect of my life, I literally will not do something unless I can check it off the list or earn a digital badge for it. Like, you know,
Yeah.
so, but if I can do either of those things, I'm very motivated to get things done. So I will literally put things that shouldn't really be on a list of things that you have to check off. I will put on just so I can check them off.
I do the exact same thing. Now, on the flip side, there are people who are very relationship oriented. So their energy raises with more of those conversations and touch points. And a lot of times, I think it's really easy to have your energy level go down when you have too many administrative tasks. And administrative tasks, they're always going to be part of ministry or any other job. So it's really important if you're one of those people to, even if you have to schedule in time to reach out and talk to someone or do something that you can't put on a task list. So that's a big one. And I think that this whole managing your energy instead of your time is especially important now that we're all kind of in this weird working from home. Who is having a hard time kind of switching to working at home or working hybrid and figuring out their life rhythm? Is anybody? Everybody's got it down?
You got a couple digital thumbs up.
Yeah. I can't see everybody.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so I think that, does anyone have any tips that they have learned how to structure their time at home that they have found helpful?
I'll chime in, but seriously, anybody else unmute and feel free to chime in. Again, because I like doing the checklist, I've actually segmented my day, you guys are just gonna laugh at me, into 45-minute chunks. And I say what I'm doing in each 45-minute chunk. And I mean, it's downright silly at times, but it does keep me on task and it allows me to stay focused in what I'm supposed to be doing and not worrying about all the other things that, you know, are around in my house.
Yeah, I think that is a really good tip, is kind of breaking things into small chunks for all of us, because I think it's really easy at home to kind of stretch out your workday because you're not going anywhere. And it can be easy to get off task. So that having something you can complete, I think, is definitely helpful.
I do something called power hours where I'll set a timer. I use this to clean the house with the kids. I use it to get a bunch of little things done and just be like, almost like make it a game where I'm set a timer. How much can I get done in an hour of either a bunch of little things or just making progress on something I've been procrastinating on, and just to like bust out whatever I can do in an hour. And so I guess I don't know if it's the competitive part of me is like beat the clock or beat myself or whatever, but I think power hours are super effective. If you do just one of those a day, you can bust get a lot of things checked off your list.
That's great. That is great.
Okay, I've got something. Can you guys hear me okay? Okay. Tiffany's been awesome because we work together at helping me get organized, but I have ADD so bad that the moment it's like squirrel. So my daughter and I are doing a thing back and forth with each other because she also struggles. She's in school, but school and struggles to be a student at home. It's distracted very often as well. So we do a little tag team in the morning and then the evening and just cheer each other on and say, way to go, or send a smiley face or whatever. So it's worked really well.
Yeah, I think that's really important, having that support. And I think it's also really important knowing yourself and what works for you. I have not been diagnosed with ADD, but if I ever did get diagnosed with it, I don't think anyone's going to fall over in shock. So yeah. I can feel you. And it's really about learning what works for you. And for me, it is like putting it into small chunks. And then I've heard this and do it myself is giving myself a reward after I get the things done I don't like. So for me, that's a lot of times like blasting my music and like kind of dancing around and whatnot. But what about you guys? Do you guys find that incentives help?
So Barb, in the chat, Tony shared that exercise time using as a reward for completing tasks.
Yes, that's a great one. So with that, two things. One is that another thing they found that helps with your energy level, work-life balance, and compassion fatigue is called task-focused coping. What that means is you get done what you control the things you can control. So if there's something that's really, you keep procrastinating on, if you just do it, your energy goes way up. And I think we probably all had that experience. But that is one of the simple things that you can do that it will make immeasurable changes in your energy level.
What was the name of that again?
It's called task-focused coping. So when we're talking about compassion fatigue, one of the things I found was interesting and surprising. Now, compassion fatigue, just to go off to the other direction really quickly, is a little different than work-life balance. It's for people in the helping fields like ministry, where you are surrounded by people who are suffering a lot. It can overwhelm you at some points and give you compassion fatigue, where your energy goes down and you lose empathy and different things. So one of the things that helps with that is called task-focused coping. And that means doing the practical things that you can to take stress off of you. And they found that was more helpful than emotion-focused coping, where you're trying to tell yourself that what you're doing isn't that bad or that you can power through it. So it's really interesting. But that task-focused coping, one of my friends calls it swallowing the alligator, is just swallow that alligator first, the one thing you've been putting off, and that does wonders. So I think everyone has that thing that they put off. For me, it's scheduling my volunteers each month. And I do find that when I just sit down and do it, it's like a freedom that comes with it. And another way that we can manage our energy level is with self-care. And of course, everyone's heard that a million times, but most of us are pretty terrible at it. So one of the things, what's just the truth, especially I think now is like one of the worst times ever for self-care, because so many people can't do the things they used to do. And so we're all just kind of struggling, like, what do I do now? And I think a really helpful tip is instead of thinking like self-care has to be this big thing, like I have to go take a yoga class or I have to schedule a trip, I like to call it bits of joy, and just incorporating little tiny bits of joy into each day. Because once you start getting in the habit of doing this, like, and these are simple things, like sometimes I wear shirts that have sequins on them because glittery things make me happy, or I might play music that I listened to in college and dance around the house. And these are things that are not hard to do, but the more you put into your life, it's like how we accumulate stress Like, you know how you can get into that mindset where you notice everything that is difficult and you start feeling more and more weary? We can also accumulate joy. And if you get into that habit of putting little bits of joy in your life, you'll be amazed at how different you feel in a month. Does anyone have anything that they do now that really gives them energy like that?
I go on 5-mile walks
Ooh, that's a good one.
every day.
That's great. Is that your time you kind of like sort through your thoughts, or what do you do on those walks?
Well, I'm praying, I'm listening to music, or just walking and watching the natural changes that are taking place. Birds, well,
Yeah.
ducks that fly into the pond, and just enjoying being in the presence of God and his creation. So it's just, okay, you know, like yesterday I was having a really bad day and it was like, okay, I don't care how cold it is. I don't care, you know, what it is. I have to get outside. So that's what I do.
Yeah, that's a good one. What about anyone else?
For me, one of the things that really made it, I really, even when I had my annual review, the pastor I work for was just like, you just loved this quarantine stay at home, didn't you? And I'm like, yes, I did. I totally thrived on it. But what I could do when I was home, and we're empty nesters, so it's different for me than a lot of people, but I could really feel productive because I like to cook and bake. And being at home, I could do that while I worked, and then I could share it with neighbors because I'm a relational person.
Yeah.
I'm not a task person. And so that there weren't as many tasks to be done during that time. It is stressful for me now to kind of come back to the hybrid model of being at work and at home because it's just the tasks that stress me out. And when I'm there, I'm at home today because I have this Zoom and 2 other ones that I lead. So I like to do those from home, and I could just always look forward to my Wednesday because I know I'll be home on Wednesday and I won't have to be sitting at my desk. But the other thing that freed me up was because I'm relational, and there was more time to be relational when everybody was at home, but also evenings when kids are in bed and times like that are times that I could pour into parents. And before COVID, I would go to work all day because those were the work hours. But then I'd come home and I would do those relational phone calls and outreaches and emails. And my husband was just always complaining that you go to work all day and then you come and work at night.
Right.
So, and all the ideas from Idea Share and everything else has just helped out so much. But that's my little bits of joy would be able to get up and, you know, do something at the same time while I'm working, multitasking.
Yeah, that's great. What about anyone else? Do you have some tips?
Exercise for me is the big one, like just huge. And because I didn't do self-care for so many years and taking care of my son,
Yeah.
my own body has just fallen apart. And so in recovering this last year from a spine surgery, I realized how important it is to do self-care, but it is really hard
It is.
to figure out how to do that while caring for someone who is, for my disabled son, who's 23, and then working full time. So I try to get up every hour or so just to walk around a little bit or play with the dogs, just anything that I can do to move. And the thing that I hate doing, I will do when I'm on my treadmill. So I have a little desk thing set up on there. So I'm like, okay, I'm feeling, I don't want to do this, but at least I can be walking and have endorphins released and my brain better. And I get stuff done that way.
That's great. That's a great tip. Do it while you're doing something you enjoy.
I would probably wipe out if I tried to do that, but
That's just my weird brain. It works that way. I don't know why.
I don't know if I'm that coordinated. Barb, I wanted to really quickly go back to something you talked about earlier about eating the alligator. So Douglas shared in the chat, it's a Mark Twain quote. So I want to read it so that those that are watching the recording later can hear it. If it's your job to eat a frog, it's best to do it first thing in the morning. And if it's your job to eat 2 frogs, it's best to eat the biggest one first.
Yes, that is so true. And that is something I think I really had to work on this past year. because, having a new position and working from home, it is really easy to put things off if no one's telling you you have to do them. But I have noticed it makes a world of difference in how your day goes and your week goes. Yeah. Oh, and real quick to go back to the self-care, I think you had a really good point. If you are a parent of a child with a disability or you're dealing with that, I think you have to think about self-care differently, because I feel like self-care has almost become a dirty word where people feel guilty that they can't do it. And I think we need to let that go, that we just need to change the way we look at it and make it smaller, because really that's how you get healthy habits in your life every day anyway. In the link that I shared, this is actually a link to our website where you can download these work-life balance tips. And then these two sheets, I saw these online and kind of recreated them. But this is my not to-do list and my can't wait to-do list. So I would definitely encourage each one of you to, at some point, download these and kind of fill them out for yourself, because there's a lot of things on here we don't really think about, but are helpful. So on my not to do list, the first one's on there is that stuff that's out of my control. How many of you out there, energy level goes way down because you worry about things you can't really control? I think probably everybody. Yeah. So this is one that you can just take off your plate here. Okay. Stuff I feel obliged to do. Anybody? Yeah. Yeah. Sylvia, do you want to share a little bit about that? Your experience with that?
Things I feel like I have to do
Yeah, but that you don't really have to do. You just feel like you do.
because I'm a control freak, so I have to do it.
Yeah. Have you ever? Oh wait, so you're in the next line here. We've got stuff.
I'm probably all of them.
We have stuff that's other people's responsibilities and stuff I don't trust other people to do well enough.
Cleaning the toilets. When my boys were growing up, I just could not trust them to clean that toilet because I could not stand to smell the pee in the bathroom.
I'm gonna give you a pass on that one, Sylvia, because I have a 17-year-old son and a 15-year-old son, and they cannot clean their bathroom for nothing.
Well, I have a 79-year-old husband that I'm still trying to train, so it doesn't get better.
Yeah. Okay, good. But this sheet it's really good because it's stuff that we all do. I think we all do this stuff. Like this is a hard one for me too. Stuff I don't trust other people to do well enough. And I think as leaders, that's hard for all of us because we have our vision in our mind of how we want to do it. And so it's really wrapping your mind around knowing it's okay if it's done differently, if it's within the guardrails that we set. So, okay. So, is there anyone else that wants to share anything that they want to take off their to-do list? Okay, well, I think if you have some time to look at it later, you'll probably find a lot, because I think we all have a lot of things that we feel like we have to do that we really can let go of. And it's determining which of those things. Now this one's fun. This is my can't wait to do list. And this is where we add things that actually add energy. So here's a good one. Stuff that makes me feel accomplished. I know, Beth, you and I talked about checking things off of our checklist. Does anyone else have something that brings them energy that makes them feel accomplished? Or the next one, stuff that inspires me for the future. This is a biggie. What was the last thing that you saw that really inspired you, especially now during this COVID season?
Well, a lot of you have actually emailed me that you've been inspired by other people on the Idea Share, and that you have implemented things in your own ministry because of how you've been inspired by, like just look around. Many of you have emailed me that. So even if you're too shy to share it on here, I can tell you that we're inspiring each other, and so you'd be able to fill that out on your little paper there.
That is a big one. Here's two just to think about that I find helpful. One is take some time and kind of explore on the internet, like seminars or workshops that you would like to go to if you could. And instead of thinking like, I can't go there, I don't have the funds for this or the time, just ask yourself, what about this seminar makes me excited? And then you can do your own research and kind of dive into that yourself. But kind of just seeing what else is out there can be inspiring. And forgot what the second one was, but we'll come back to it.
Well,
I
and
would
you know,
say-
actually, Barb, that's a good point. Like this year of any year, really, there are a lot of, you know, conferences or seminars that you can attend that you wouldn't have been able to attend before just because everything's virtual.
Right.
So you may, you know, if there's a lot of content out there that was not available to us a few years ago, put it that way.
Yeah, I think it's really important because part of it is like spending time in your work week thinking about your dreams for your work. Because a lot of times we get stuck in the minutia of what we do every day and we don't really have time to think, what do I want to be doing? But if you explore around and you intentionally reflect on that, you'll be surprised at how much your excitement for work and your energy level will rise. And then I remember what the other one was. So in my ministry, Wonderful Works, we create online videos and trainings for churches to help with special needs ministry. We are recently doing a unit on relaunching your ministry since we're all in that right now. And we did a poll on a couple of different online groups of ministry leaders and asked what was the thing you learned the most through this pandemic. And the one I think was the best was someone said, I learned to redefine my wins, because I think right now we're kind of, a lot of us are in a season of loss. And we're looking at, this is what I had before the pandemic and this is what I have now. And it's really easy to think I can't do the same thing and feel bad. But his suggestion was now letting that go and thinking, what is the win now? And then spending like 10 minutes a day reviewing a win from your week. We used to actually do this in my staff meetings when I was at church. We called it wins of the week, and everyone would go around and they would tell what their win is. That is powerful. If you are not reviewing your wins right now, please write that all over my can't wait to do list. With that in mind, does anyone have a win that they want to share since pandemic started?
I will. I've just seen the ministry grow by leaps and bounds since the pandemic started by using virtual tools like Zoom. To be able to meet in person and Zoom at the same time, so it's one large classroom. We're averaging more kids, more adults than we did when it was just a class on Sunday mornings.
Yeah.
Being able to reach out and do other things. One of the wins is, Colleen helped me with this, was reaching out to a virtual tour of Bible lands for my kids. So we're going to start this year taking a trip through the Bible and seeing in person what they actually are studying. So things like that are incredible wins for me.
That's awesome. I love that idea. All right, what about someone else?
No, I got this call for another half hour.
Tom or Julie, what about you? Do you have a win to share?
Yeah, I have to say, our Amy is, she's the motivation for our ministry that we're doing. And many of you know that she has written a book. And just to see her excitement getting this devotional book out and distributed. And what's exciting is that people are ordering it. So I go, look at the list and pray over the people that they would be encouraged in their walk, their daily walk, because there's lots of discouragement that's out today. So that's a big win to see her excitement and to work together, the three of us, as we reach out.
I would say, Beth, that's a pandemic blessing because we shifted our efforts. I quit my job actually, and we poured everything into the ministry. And so that is the culmination of making that decision and getting the thing done. And so that is definitely a pandemic blessing.
Yeah, that's good. What about you, Doc? You have a win to share?
Yeah, I'd say, we've had several. One of the first wins that happened early in the pandemic was, that's the whole reason the whole Talk with Doc came around, was because it freed up a little bit of my time and gave that platform to us. And then just, we've created now our virtual respite nights. And through that, we've now got families from literally all over the country who have been able to participate in that, who normally wouldn't have otherwise. And we were able to take our conference all virtual, bringing in many more people who normally would not have been able to do that. And so both of those things were now, and then our camp as well went virtual. So all those, not just being able to offer to people in the Kansas City area, but now we've been able to come alongside and also help support other churches and their ministries and help them through this process. So that's been a really cool, unexpected blessing that we've loved being able to do.
I love your virtual respite night idea. I think not only does that reach more people, but it helps ministries like mine. Like at our church, our special needs ministry is 100% volunteer run, including myself. And so we don't have the staffing to do a respite night in person because, we have to kind of choose where we pull our resources. But we could learn from you if we wanted to reach out to our families and do a virtual. I mean, it's just so creative and so innovative. So I think that is a huge win. What about you, Al? Do you have one?
Yeah, I got into disability ministry kind of by accident by having a son that had autism. I didn't know anything about it, but I came into it with missionary vision from working in France, kind of trying to connect and all that. And the pandemic has speeded up the process of networking, of connecting nationally even. This group didn't exist a year ago. Special Fathers Network is national now. That didn't exist a year ago. Night to Shine, they're doing it differently this year, but potentially getting more people. So I wouldn't have guessed that when it started, the pandemic, but I think there's more people being reached, and just the connections that have happened in this group and other groups are speeding it up as well. So yeah, just having a bunch of friends I didn't know a year ago because of the pandemic, and these panels are really good.
I agree. Sylvia, I'm gonna put you on the spot because I know your church has not met in person at all. And you still have a while before you meet in person. So I feel like you probably really have had to redefine your wins this year. And there's a lot of people out there who are in the same position as you. What can you share on this?
I guess the biggest wins has been just learning how to navigate in the midst of things that we didn't know anything about. And that every day is a learning process. But learning to reconnect with people who have been so disconnected because of our busyness when we were in brick and mortar, that we now have time to reconnect with all those people, reaching back and finding old emails and sending letters to people, even expanding our buddy break ministry support, where people may have registered through Nathaniel's Hope and signed up for it, but never were able to come to the ministry. That though they may not always connect through the online opportunities that we offer, but every month when we do a buddy break, that's a mail-in kind of thing, they're on our list. We send them the same packages that everybody that typically participated in the ministry, we would send them information. Even the volunteers, even if they are not actively participating, when we send out mailings go out to everybody so that we do stay connected. Sunday school, we've added people to Sunday school. and parents and children who typically may miss a Sunday are now regular participants. So it's just been seeing everything grow, even though sometimes we might get a little frustrated about what we think is lack of growth. But I'm learning that if we reach one person, that's one person who may have a closer walk with God. And that's the key, is making sure that there is that connectedness, and they don't know me, but they know God through the whole process. So that's a win for me.
That's
And
a win.
I have a new co-director who keeps me on target, who is on, and I just want to do a shout out to her because she has been such a blessing to the ministry, because she's my tech person, and what I don't know, which is a whole lot, she knows all of it. So I just want to do a shout out to Miss Angel Johnson, who's on here with us today.
Welcome. We're glad you're here.
Thank you.
And any friend of Sylvia is a friend of ours. So we're big Sylvia fans.
Yes, so am I. She's my, she thinks I help her, but she also is an inspiration to me.
Well, welcome.
Sylvia for president in 2024.
I know, I didn't get elected today, but I'm so proud of that one that did. Anyway.
Does anyone else have any wins they want to share?
I had one idea. I took this basically the advice of the guest speaker. What I had done was I had missed the seminars that I attended during the summer on theology and disability. And because of that, I delved into the research and then launched a webinar on that. And I was glad to see that 30 people had attended, and it looks like it may just well be a weekly discussion now.
Wow, that's a big win.
Great. Good job, Bob.
That's great. Well, I'm sure we have a lot more wins, but for time, we're going to dive into the next point, which is everyone's favorite, setting boundaries. So with work-life balance, it does come down to you do have to set boundaries, especially today, now that we're all kind of in this at-home or hybrid mode. So does anyone have anything to share about how they are doing that, or what they say I will do and won't do, and have some advice?
This is a little one, but I sometimes get like texts from families that are part of my church's ministry at like some pretty crazy hours. And so a little boundary that I've set for myself is, I mean, unless it's an emergency, I maybe won't reply right that second. So if it's 11:30 at night and I happen, and I happen to be awake and see the text, I may not reply until the next day.
Yeah, I think that's actually a big one. And that was the one that was on my mind too, because I know when I worked for the church, the same thing, everyone had my cell number, and people will text you at all hours. And usually it's in the evening because they're off of work. So I did not set that boundary that you set, and learned that that was not a good idea. That I think it can feel hard to make people wait, but that's a really healthy boundary to set for yourself, to say, unless it's an emergency, I will get back to you tomorrow. Because we want to protect ourselves from burnout too.
Beth, this is Tony. I think you should answer every text at all hours of the night. I think that's.
Thanks, Tony.
Yeah, that's insanity doing that. That's great that you do that, that you don't do that. I mean, you have to definitely set that.
Yeah. What about saying no to things? Does anyone struggle with that? Okay. Yeah, I have found in talking to leaders that is a big struggle for a lot of people, but it's really healthy and really important to know how to say no, to know when to say no, and to know how to say it in a way that people can receive it. Does anyone want to share a little bit about that?
I'll jump in on that one. So, and my team is there on here. They can attest. I am horrific at saying no with that. But you know, for us, and actually for my team, I've had us this year read the book "The One Thing," by Gary Keller. I highly recommend that for all of you to read. And basically, and he's a believer. Gary Keller is the one behind Keller Williams, but basically it's find the one thing that you must do, that if you don't do it, nothing else is going to be able to happen. And he even talks about being able to say no to other things. But for me now, I'm looking at, okay, if it's not going to help me do what my one thing is or help me with my other things, I'm going to need to say no to it right now, because I've got to focus on my other things. So if it's not helping me with that one thing or helping me, help, promote the organization or do something with that, I'm going to have to say no. And so I've actually started saying no.
Do you feel better
with that?
Do you feel better? Not yet.
Not yet. It takes some time, because that's also part of my nature. I think that's all of our nature. We want to help and we want to say yes. And so it's just something I've got to get used to with it. But it's going to be a learning process. So I'd say, it starts with saying no once, and then you say it again. So it's going to just take time to do that. So it's going to be a slow process for me, but I'm in the habit now of starting to think through and process it. And I'm not just going to automatically say yes to everything.
Good. This is a subject that actually is really close to my heart. For two reasons. One is I think I had the best leadership mentoring anyone could have when I worked at the church. Our boss, Pastor Brad Coaches, who will be one of our Wonderful Work speakers in March, he took time every staff meeting to teach us how to be leaders. And so he taught us all about the importance of intended impact and saying no. And we're actually going to be talking about that in March in Wonderful Works. But the things that have really helped me do it is understanding that good leaders know their no's. So knowing when to say no actually is important in leadership. And exactly 100,000% what you just said, Doc, it is understanding your priorities and knowing, is saying yes going to help my top priority, hurt my top priority, or neutral? And that will give you discernment on when to say no. And then the other thing that my mentor had taught us all was every time you make a decision and you have to tell someone, you lead from why. So it's not just knowing what we need to say no to, it's knowing why we said it and why we decided that and how that supports the larger mission, and being able to explain that in a compassionate way to people. And I have found over the years, most people take that well. The other thing that I found really personally helpful in learning how to say no was reading the book, The Best Yes by Lisa TerKeurst. And that whole book is about this subject. If you haven't read it, I would definitely encourage you to read it, because it has a lot of good tips for being able to tell people no in ways that are less hurtful, which is, I think, what we struggle with. We don't want to let anyone down. But
I'd like to add a comment is on the other side of things, as we ask people to do things, maybe we say something like, I want you to think about this. I'm not looking for an immediate answer right now. Think about it and make sure you have time and be polite about it. And if you can't do this, I understand, but here's what I'd like you to do. And especially folks in our circle here, to be courteous and understand if you don't have time for that, I understand it.
Right. Absolutely. What about other boundaries? Does anyone else have some tips?
Barb, I was going to say something. We have two things, especially this last year, that we've done, and that is, if we're going to add something to our schedule, then something has to go. So I can't just keep having yes, yes, yes. It's a both and. So if I say yes to that, I need to say no to something else, and I have to evaluate my values and my priorities then. The other thing is to reflect on, what is my motivation? Why is this hard for me to say no to? Am I wanting to people please? Am I wanting to get something out of this? I mean, knowing the why internally, I think makes our yes a very strong yes.
Yes.
No, a very strong no. Confidence and kindness.
Yes.
I have to ask myself that question a lot.
That's good. Okay, anyone else have anything to add on boundaries? Okay, here's just a real simple one. I have not done this yet because I'm bad at technology, but if you learn how to turn off your notifications, that is a real small boundary you can give yourself to raise your energy because you won't be so distracted all the time. Okay, the next thing on our list was, this one is a little bit tricky for this year because I wrote this before the pandemic, but find a way to transition from work to home that works for you. So I guess even if you're at home, we still have to figure out that how do we get out of our work headspace into our personal life headspace? And I will tell you, probably out of everything, this is the one I struggle with the most. So I have no advice, but if anyone can help me, I would love it.
Well, now, oh, go ahead.
I have found that since I am on the computer so much to work, and then also to life, like ordering my groceries and getting on order Amazon or researching something just for life, that I actually have a work computer and a fun computer, or a work computer and like another device. So just because it's like a mental split, like I can close my work computer, put it away, and then when I want to do something fun or watch listen to a podcast or TV or whatever it is to life on, I'm not on my work computer. And it really is a boundary and a way to just step away from work, turn it off, and then I'm not getting my email notifications from work or things like that. So that's actually been very, very helpful, and a different mindset shift too on what mode I'm in.
That's brilliant, actually. That's great advice. What about anybody else? Julie?
So one thing that helps me is setting a schedule, and I don't want to be so tied to the schedule that I don't think that people are important, because I am task oriented, but setting a schedule really helps me. I know that between these hours, I'm going to be mainly focused on work. I might have some personal things come into that, but mostly I'm going to be focused on work. And then at those other times, I actually schedule it what I'm going to do for recreation or for relationship building with my family or whatever it is. I actually schedule that in as much as I can. And I've had to learn, because I am task oriented, I've had to learn to be a little bit flexible with that schedule, but it does help if I know that this time is dedicated to this thing and that time is dedicated to this other thing. And if I need to switch them around, that's fine, but let's give each thing its due in proper time.
Yeah, that's good. Anyone else?
Something that worked for me when I was home was putting my workspace in a room that I could shut the door to, in a room that I don't need to go in as often, at least. And that helped a lot of days, because then I would literally shut the door, and normally you don't shut a lot of doors. But then it was that mental boundary of, okay, that your office is closed per se.
That's great. Okay, so the next thing after boundaries that you can do to help is called start by plowing the soft ground. This is one that I learned in my internship that someone told me. And that means you start with the simplest thing to change first. Because a lot of times we think, I need to make all these changes, I'm really like out of whack. And that can be overwhelming, or you want to eat the biggest alligator first. Then sometimes it's okay to eat the little mouse, little nut first, and start with something small. And once you can do that, then move to the next thing. So for me, that might be, I love your idea of shutting the door, like using the office and shutting the door. That's a small thing that we can do. But once we accomplish that, then you move on to the next one. Then the next thing for your work-life balance and for your energy level, I think we're doing it right now, is getting support and talking to people. If you start feeling like you're getting out of whack, and I know we talked about how do you feel, maybe you cry all the time, or maybe you feel like you're getting scattered, is really being aware of your feelings and the way you respond when you're getting overwhelmed, and knowing that that is a reminder you need to call someone and talk to someone.
And when I said that this was the idea share earlier, this is not the idea share. This is our monthly roundtable, but we also have the idea share, and it's many of these same people. And that's a good opportunity if you are looking for that support or encouragement, or you need to kind of talk through a situation. Join our monthly idea share. It's the first Monday of every month, and you can register at keyministry.org/events. But I know that many of us have found that helpful, just as we're kind of working through some of these issues.
Yeah, feeling like you're not alone is huge. And sometimes when you reach out and you tell people how you're feeling, you find out they're exactly there too. So that's a big one. And then the next one is give yourself grace, that we all want to always get it right all the time, but none of us actually do. And that's okay. And even if you find yourself like, my energy level is too low, or I'm trying to do all these tips that I learned and I'm failing at it, it's okay. Just give yourself grace and know that none of us are going to get it perfect, and each day is a fresh start. And then, of course, the last one is always make sure you carve out time to spend with God, to pray, and just have that quiet time. Because really, I have found I am, again, a checklist person, and it's really easy for me to want to start my day and start checking things off. But when I don't have that time with God, then you can tell. Is that the energy level, the day, my attitude, everything is different.
Well, and all those things that you mentioned earlier about like discerning if this is part of what you should be doing. I mean, really, we should just be taking that to prayer.
Absolutely. Yeah, so that's kind of what I've learned over the years with work-life balance, and the importance of really paying attention to your energy, and also just being empowered to know that you can change your energy if you just incorporate some small things. Does anyone else have any final thoughts or anything they want to share?
Well, I'd like you to tell us a little bit more about how people can get involved with like the group that you have, and where they can find these resources.
Yeah. Okay. So I lead Wonderful Works, which is also a pandemic win, because it came out of, I graduated from grad school in May when the pandemic started, and ended up starting this ministry, Wonderful Works Special Needs Ministry. It's an online resource platform for churches to use, that we do bi-weekly 5-minute training videos and downloadable resources, and we have monthly speakers. And each month we have a different topic that relates to ministry structure or special needs, positive behavior support. And our goal is to unite people like you guys who have special needs ministry backgrounds with church leaders who know nothing about disabilities, because we are trying to form a community where we are helping each other, and we're trying to get those churches that have no special needs ministries to learn how to become inclusive. And so you can find us at wonderfulworks.net. I'll put it here in the chat. But really, all of our discussion, our resources, and our videos are in our Facebook group. So if you want to join our Facebook group, we post every Wednesday. We are growing like crazy. Like, things have been just exploding lately. It's super exciting. And with that, the other thing that is really important to me is taking care of leaders. It is really a group that leads leaders, and it is a leadership community. And with that, compassion fatigue is something that's close to my heart. So if you go on our website, there is a section on compassion fatigue, and it has our compassion fatigue video. It has, this. Okay. It has, each month we put up the 4 points worksheet, which was also part of my capstone project for school. And what this is 4 prompts that you can look at that help you develop healthy habits to protect yourself and your team from compassion fatigue by raising your energy and raising your compassion satisfaction. Each month we will have new worksheets. They're weekly worksheets. They're actually really fun. When we did this at my internship for my project, the counselors loved it. They looked forward to it. So check it out. But that's will be available on there. And the link I posted today is also from our website. So it's a work-life balance tips and my can't wait to-do list and my what can't not do list. So I'll put this in the chat. Please check us out and please join our group so we can keep building a stronger church community for everyone and special needs families.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Barb. This was great. So they can access all of this at wonderfulworks.net. And I'm assuming can also contact you through the website as well.
Yes.
Great. Yes, so thank you so much. And Tony, sure, would you like to lead it? Are you asking to lead or where is Tony?
No, I wasn't asking to lead. I just thought it'd be a nice thing to do.
I think it'd be a great thing to do. Would anybody like to lead?
I mean, I will. I don't.
If not, I will. So if you'll join with me in prayer, please. Heavenly Father, we just thank you so much for this time today. We thank you for everyone who has shared their gifts on here today. And we thank you for this time to just take a little bit of a break from our everyday busy lives and just think about what matters most, what matters to you most, and help us to just to take all of these tasks to you and help us to discern what's most important and how to focus our energy and to do those, to make those choices that will give us more energy so that we can do the work that will bring you glory. Lord, thank you for this group and for this time together. And it's in your precious son's name we pray. Amen. All right, everybody, we will see you back here next month. And please join us for an idea share as well. So we'll have that the first Monday in February. All right, thanks, Barb, and thanks everybody for being here today.